guess we can't really tell because if they're on.
Should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Fourth and Frames. I'm Rhett Manuel with Drew Scott, Nate Markham, who, man, it's been a while since we've done a show together, and the man himself, Mr. College Football Fantasy, host of the One Foot Down podcast here at Fantasy and Frames, and the best mind that college fantasy football has to offer, the boy Chris Battisell, where tonight we are drafting our 2025 Listener League live. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and review to catch anytime a new podcast or short from us drops. And search for all the podcasts here at Fantasy and Frames by name wherever you listen to podcasts. And for us, make sure to subscribe to the Fourth and Frames podcast. Lock in at fantasyandframes.com for the latest weekly IDP and Dynasty rankings, articles, takes, news and notes. Nate, it's been a minute. It's been a while since we've spoken, man. So I'm going to lead with you. How the heck are you tonight, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. It really is nice to have you back, or nice to be back with all you guys. And Drew and I had a chance to catch up last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever the hell it was. It feels like Chris. It's been way too long for us, man.
Too long.
I missed you at the expo this year. Missed you just in general. So couldn't be happier to see you, feel you, touch you. Not maybe in that order, but hey yo, it's a family show.
And Kyle, understanding that flaws and all, I'm here grinding it out. Drew Scott, you're also grinding it out with that infamous Wi-Fi that you have going on. Hotel Drew in the building for the Listener League draft. Talk to me, brother.
Yeah, man, I really thought since I was in a Marriott tonight and I'm supposed to get enhanced internet for free that I'd be okay, but I still somehow managed to have to use my hotspot. So here we are. But my home league draft kicked off like 35 minutes ago, so I'm in the middle of the draft right now. I've got this draft about to start. Chris is back. Nate's back. Rhett's back. We got the whole family back together. I'm going to be drafting two separate teams, so little shitty internet's not going to get me down.
No, it won't. But before we get started with that draft, you know what we're all about. Every one of these 12 players is trying to get that ring. And where else to get your swag to celebrate your ring than Trophy Smack, where Fantasy and Frames 10 get you 10% off anything they have in stock. That could be a belt, a ring, a trophy. You name it, they've got it. All you've got to do is head over to trophysmack.com, put in that code Fantasy and Frames 10 and watch yourself save some money. Hook up your league with a great piece for your championship bragging rights. And speaking of bragging rights, let's go ahead and let's talk about this draft, fellas, because it didn't go great for me last year. So can someone just refresh me on who was the champion in last year's league, Drew?
Unfortunately, it's this damn guy below me. If his name tag isn't enough of a spoiler.
Boy.
Reigning, defending
champion of the world. Hope you guys are ready.
And while we wait for one of us to get this draft pulled up, because I'm working from my phone tonight, fellas, as well as my tablet. Guys, we are going to look at the draft order real quick, and let's review that draft order real quick, because sitting in the 1-1 is my arch nemesis, Mr. Aiden Weingartner, as he is probably going to botch this pick as we pull up this board and probably pick, what do you guys think? Is he going to go, we know he's a big Genty guy, so Genty 1-1 sounds like a classic Aiden move if you ask me.
Yeah. It sounds about right.
Sounds about right, huh?
Big
So, fellas, does one of y'all have the board that y'all are putting up?
Nate, can you supply us with the draft board? Since typically I would volunteer to do it, but the way my internet's set up tonight, I'm connected between like two tin cans.
I can make that happen. Then you guys get my all my prioritized sheet. You get all my rankings, my queue. It's not really fair to me, but you know what? That's just how future champions do this thing. Is they basically is that work? How's that? So let me bring this down. There you go. And
yeah,
can you see all 12? Or do I need-
Not quite. No,
1
we
to
need to
8,
zoom out.
9, 10, 11.
What the? What did you? What? Hang on. What? We should have sorted this out before. Did you pick to share your screen?
share screen?
And then did you do Chrome tab or window or entire screen?
I don't know. You picked the wrong brother to figure this part out. Oh, IT savvy over here. Why is it
Do a hot
bad?
start.
Yeah, off to wonderful.
Scintillating radio here on Fourth and Frames as we get started with this live draft. It is going to be a 16-round draft, and we are going to snake. And people were asking questions. Is it an IDP league? No, it's not. We are just going with skill players only. So we're going to start 1 quarterback. We're going to start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 3 flex players.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a deep one.
That's good though. That's what that's what I want. We did a draft with my home league and guys, and it's only a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, super deep bench, which is good, for the limiting the free agent pool being too overpopulated. But man, it really sucks when your bench has players like Jalen Waddle and some of the others that you have to make that decision every week. I'd rather have a larger, less decisions to make between the wide receiver 26, 32, and 38 on the week. You know what I mean?
Great measurements.
You guys good to go? Ready to get this started?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's do this.
Fire it up.
All right. So
Aiden is on the clock, and if he is a smart man, which he is, he goes Jamar Chase at the 1-1. No shock there, guys.
Yeah, no, I mean he's the 1-1 in any league, but in a league where you have to start 3 receivers, it's pretty much a no-brainer at that point.
Absolutely.
Scampers on deck.
really, you get the first. I think the first 5-6 picks have pretty much gone in most consistent order in some of our leagues, that at least the majority of leagues that I've seen. And really, once you get to like 7 through really through 12, you start seeing blends. CD at 2. And here's a question.
Well, this blew up my whole plan because I planned on taking CD at 4. I guess Scampers didn't get my memo that I was supposed to be able to get CD Lamb at 104.
You didn't send him the show sheet, Drew.
Yeah, you should have done that.
Oh,
this is not a knock on
pivot.
Bijan. Oh, the pivot 2.
Pivoting in the first round is always
Yeah.
a fun time.
Always ideal.
No. It's crazy.
I made no plan past knowing that I was going to get Lamb.
Right.
I
was
said
banking.
he was going to take Lamb at 103 anyway, so there was no way I was getting him.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. Consolation of Jahmyr Gibbs is not a bad situation to be in, but Saquon going to 6. That was the I went back and forth between Saquon and Jefferson. And it's like when I get to that 2-8 spot on the way back around, that grouping of running backs there, assuming some of them will be there, I just like a little bit more than that group of receivers. But that shit can change in about 6 picks.
Yeah. And guys, let's focus on this 1-7 right now because KFB SDL took Christian McCaffrey at the 107. And guys, there was some news where Brian Robinson was traded to the 49ers. So Chris, I'm going to go to you. How do you think Brian Robinson affects Christian McCaffrey's stock here in redraft here in 2025?
Little to none. I mean, I don't think he affects Christian McCaffrey's stock all too much. He didn't work out in Washington, running back that he is, and how he faltered down the stretch last year. And what we know of Christian McCaffrey, if anything, he's just going to be a workload substitution just to give Christian McCaffrey a break here and there. He's not a better pass catcher than Christian McCaffrey. He's not a better runner outside or in between the tackles. It's Christian McCaffrey's job, and Brian Robinson at this point is really just insurance if Christian McCaffrey was to go down, and it's not even that great of an insurance policy, Rhett.
Yeah, but I mean, there is something you have to say about Brian Robinson is that if nothing else, he is boringly solid. So if that's what they were going for as a contingency plan, then I mean, they did well in getting a guy like Brian Robinson.
Yeah, but I think they had some boringly solid guys already in that backfield. If anything, it affects guys like Isaac Guriendo and the guys behind him. So Christian McCaffrey, I mean, I don't think it affects him too much.
No,
If at all.
And so the auto pick for
D. Henry, not a
for
bad
B.
pick.
No.
To be honest, last year I think my first 6 picks were
They
auto.
were,
Sleeper
yeah.
made like my first 6 picks. So if anything, Bill W here has a good
We
shot
already
at
have
winning
him.
if you let Sleeper make the first 6 picks. So
We already have a
good on you,
contender.
Bill. It's a good strategy. It worked for me last year.
He must have went back and watched last year's stream before this draft.
He's trying to learn his competitors and see what won. I like it, man.
You got to know your league,
He did a little research right there. All right, guys, I'm up at the 111, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go for upside here with Malik Neighbors. I feel like the target share is going to be unbelievable this year. So why not take a shot on one of the guys who I think has a chance to be the target leader in the league?
Yeah,
I love that.
I don't have any concern really about this toe situation that hasn't moved his ADP that much. Maybe a little more confidence, a spot or two from some people. I would take every quote unquote dip you could get on Neighbors, and I've seen him fall actually into the early second, really like 14 at the latest, but back in picks 11, 12, it's what I've seen the vast majority of the times when you double tap the wide receiver, especially in the 3 wide receiver league, to be able to get Amon-Ra, Drake London, wonderful Chris, Neighbors and Puka. And then
Nico and Brian Thomas, Albert, Rhett, Chris, y'all's starts.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. That's hot. That's hot as shit.
Yeah, and that was good.
Such a good start that Drew is evoking Paris Hilton's catchphrase from 2005 and saying that that's hot. Drew, I was expecting a lot of things tonight about bingo card. You making an unintentional Paris Hilton reference, not one of them, bud.
Oh, you're just mistaken for thinking it was unintentional.
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle said
McCaffrey.
Aiden said, "Who's that?"
Looks like Kurt's going with the all Irish last name, the all Mick team right now.
Here. Also love that Bucky Irving pick here in the middle of the second round.
And
Bucky.
Yeah, Bucky Irving's nice. Ooh, Achane, I like that too. I'm glad that one of my top 10 receivers ended up falling back to me since I didn't get a receiver in round 1. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yep. And that was
because I would have been Nate if you wouldn't have taken Achane right there, I would have been very tempted to start running back in a start through receiver league, and I would not have liked that at all. So I appreciate you not forcing me to do that.
And that was part of my concern with not going with McCaffrey or Barkley is that if Achane, or I was also looking at players like, is the potential that Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs slipped, then to start running back, which I don't mind, especially with the depth at wide receiver. But in a 3 wide receiver, it's really nice to have that one and then fill in behind him. And especially, now granted, don't get me wrong, the risk for Achane is obviously pretty great, but the reward is the RB1 on the entire season, which he's capable of doing. That defense is going to be garbage. They lose Jonnu Smith, the Tyreek Hill situation, who really knows? I mean, the amount of targets and just touches that could be at his disposal is great if he doesn't miss considerable time.
Guys, I want to focus in on that 210 pick with Brock Bowers for a second because Jacoby Myers also requested a trade. Nate, I'm going to go to you. Does this push up Bowers' upside even further?
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of preseason just slander against Bowers because they're talking about his usage in the preseason, which I don't think that I'm even remotely concerned. Weird. I mean, it is entirely weird. Like, it's so crazy how you can see such drastic change. I think Bowers, yes, maybe there's a few percentage points of target increase, but I never really had doubt. I think him slipping to the 210 spot is excellent value. So I wasn't wavering on Bowers myself.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Man, what a brutal run. I just wanted one of JSN or T. Higgins to make it back to me. That's all I wanted. And then 3-1, 3-2, JSN and T. Higgins, which to be expected. Start 3 receiver league. We got a lot of sharp people in this league, so it doesn't really surprise me that happens. But I don't once JSN and Higgins come off the board, I don't love the receivers that are on the board. Like there's nobody that I'm really in love with, and there's one running back that I still like a lot. So I'm gonna start 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. Whenever I got to start 3 receivers, and I don't like that, but you got to try to take the board what the board gives you, I guess.
Yeah, and that's I was really wanting to play the. I was hoping you were gonna take any of the receivers because I don't love that grouping, especially considering I feel like the next tier can drop into the 4th, and I would be happy with just each one. Everyone's seeing these guys are all like the
agreed
bottom of that second to third tier right now. And Chase Brown was my pick, and it is not now. And I really just, I'm just gonna go with who I think is tied to an excellent offense. He's got paid, and I don't love it. But I think it's it's a decently safe.
He's not going to kill you.
He's not going to kill me. And when you have a little bit of volatility with Achane, while there were a couple other running backs I would like to have taken out of just sexiness there, and I think you guys can probably name a few of them. We won't ask you to do that. But mixing one of those or 2 of those or potentially, 3 with a little high risk Achane, maybe too much for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I was wondering if we were like if I fucked up the league settings and took quarterback off or what, but we do indeed have quarterbacks, and not the quarterback that you typically see as the QB1, but Jaden Daniels went at the 306 first quarterback off the board. I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know how I think the top 4 quarterbacks are one big tier between Allen, Lamar, Hurts, and Daniels. So I have no issue with Daniels being the first quarterback off the board. But, what do you guys think with Daniels coming off there as the first quarterback?
I think it's a safe pick, but it's also a surprising pick because, like you said, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are on the board. So Paul either A, knows something we don't, or B, really, really, really loves him some Jaden Daniels this year and went with his heart. So either way, power to him. Get your guys.
Chris, let me ask you a question.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think Chris, I love your draft so far.
I have no problem with I love Kenneth Walker. Love the system and everything else. Do you think that it's the best case scenario to have this Charbonnet love to push Kenneth Walker down just a little bit, or are you even remote? Like, is your ceiling just a little depressed as far as where Kenneth Walker could finish?
Yeah, give me all the Charbonnet love to push him down, like you said. We've seen it when Kenneth Walker is healthy. He gets the workload. Zach Charbonnet doesn't necessarily tend to eat into that too much. When Kenneth Walker's rolling, it's Kenneth Walker's backfield. So I'm high on Kenneth Walker this year. The Seahawks are high on Kenneth Walker this year. I'm just hoping that the health gods are high on Kenneth Walker this year, and he can put in a full season, because a healthy Kenneth Walker is going to do some damage for fantasy drafters. So keep the Zach Charbonnet talk high. And keep pushing Kenneth Walker down the boards. If I'm drafting with you, he's not going to fall down too far, because I'll be sure to be there to scoop him up. So high end running back 1, if he can stay healthy for the whole season, man. With Sam Darnold there as well, with the potential dump downs to the running back. We've seen Kenneth Walker be able to receive the ball. So there's high potential for high amount of fantasy points with Kenneth Walker. And I cannot say hi and Kenneth Walker enough. So the more I can say hi and Kenneth Walker, I mean, it's only going to be good things to come.
Yeah, keep going.
I love Walker too. He's an RB1 for. I think he's right at the cusp. He's RB12, I believe, for me. But he's an RB1 for me this year. Paul says he likes to get a little wild in drafts like this. I can respect it. I don't think Daniels really is. Like I said, I don't think Daniels is all that wild. I think the top 4 guys are all one giant tier. So I don't mind that at all.
I think from an ADP standpoint, the most wild thing is that while obviously being the Chiefs fan, I see and have to listen to criticism, but Mahomes going before Josh Allen is one of those picks that you go, could you have waited another round if everybody has the same trepidation on Mahomes? But let's be honest, we all know the upside. I mean, the upside is that they continue to do what they've done in the preseason, which is look deep. And if that's the case, absolutely return ADP, because if obviously the Rashee Rice news, which can lead us to that, Drew, Rashee Rice impact on Patrick Mahomes through the first 6 games of the season. If you have not heard yet, Rashee Rice's suspension was handed down. 6 games starting week 1, which is probably the best case scenario so that you're not playing that weird fantasy playoff conundrum. When's it going to happen? Obviously, who does that affect the most, the least, et cetera?
Worthy obviously gets a boost with Rice out. Mahomes, he's a guy that we haven't really been depending on to be a consistent QB1 for fantasy purposes recently anyway. So I do think that it matters. But if you're drafting Mahomes, if you were already planning on drafting Mahomes, I doubt that really changes your opinion on that. But like Mahomes is one of those guys, man, where I still think he has it in him to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I don't think that Mahomes has gotten bad at the game all of a sudden. No. They've had a really strong defense for the last couple of years, and they've been able to lean on that. They've been able to lean on the run game. And I think that if he needs to turn it on, he can. And so it's not going to shock me at all if Mahomes ends up being a top 5 fantasy quarterback, but I don't think the Rice news should hurt his value though.
Yeah. I will say one thing, guys. This is where I'm glad to see that I don't think there's anybody on auto, because if you look at sleepers rankings, and if you haven't updated your specific rankings to make adjustments, players like Rashee Rice, who granted, maybe someone feels like in the 5th round, that's still good value for him. I would hate to get auto-picked Rashee Rice, Joe Mixon, some of these guys that haven't moved enough on sleepers rankings, just because it's hard to do immediate drop, 4 rounds.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough with the auto drafts when you get caught in situations like that. That's why you never want to get caught. Never want to get caught in the auto, right?
You want to get caught with your pants down.
Never. Any surprise picks so far, fellas, through 4 rounds? We lost Rhett. He was feeling a little under the weather, so it's up to the 3 of us to man this ship here. But any surprise picks through the first 4?
Yeah, I think we touched on the Mahomes. It's not a surprise. It's just
Mahomes.
You see, where
he's taken.
Yeah, if not another quarterback gets taken in the next 3 of the next 4 picks, which likelihood we're in that weird quarterback spot right now, which I'm debating back and forth. And I think I just don't like. I don't at this spot right here. If I'm looking at obviously, if you look at my team and I have 3 running backs and 1 wide receiver, the easy answer is to say, Nate, you need a wide receiver to at least be your wide receiver 2. But I don't love any one specifically more than waiting. And I think the 5th person and 6th person into that list is Joe Burrow. And it's just safe. It's easy. I want to wait because there's a lot of quarterbacks I really love later too. And I just feel like Burrow versus insert wide receiver here that I would have taken. DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams. I like Burrow and whatever receiver I'm going to get in the 6th or 7th round so much more. What do you think, Drew? Any surprises that stand out? We're only in the 5th round, but there can be.
No, I think it's overall relatively chalky outside of the Mahomes pick. I was surprised to see Bowers fall almost to the 2-3 turn. I thought that
Right.
was good value on Kyle's part to grab him there. But no, overall, I feel like it's pretty chalk, man. I knew that I wanted to take DK Metcalf in the 5th round because I feel like the target volume is going to be pretty safe, but I knew that I was going to lose out on some guys that I like their upside more with Pickens and Calvin Ridley and things like that. And so, that was a little unfortunate because I knew that was going to be coming, but it's part of it. But this area of the draft right here is why I don't mind waiting on receiver. Like the 4th through like 7th, 8th round, I feel like it's just loaded at receiver this year. So, Nate, I'm assuming you're probably anticipating the same thing because we're through you're through 5 rounds right now in a league where you have to start 3 receivers and you've only got one, so you're kind of going with the hero wide receiver build. So I'm assuming you're hoping a receiver you like is going to fall back to you here.
Well, 3 of the 4 that I had, one went right before me to Drew 3MR. Remember that?
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's 2 out of the last 3 picks that I really wish that I could have gotten because, DK was I think the most likely 25% target share guy of the group. Even Calvin Ridley's in that same mix with me, but I love George.
It was
Pickens.
Between Metcalf and Ridley for me.
And then boom, here comes another wave of all the receivers that as my 2 I would have been comfortable with. Devontae Smith, who I think is still underrated this year based off of an injury, shortened, if you will, or reduced season last year. Jalen Waddle, I'm really high on, and Jalen Waddle's one of those great picks that I feel like so many people have been burned by him over the years. He tends to fall down because in some collective, there's got to be 2 or 3 people ahead of you that are like, nope, never again. And I think there's a really, really clear path with, like I said, the vacated targets by Jonnu, the likelihood that Tyreek Hill has something at some point in the season that derails or reduces his role. I think Waddle's set up, and that defense is garbage. So there's a good chance they're throwing every time. But I'll be up soon.
Well, we got we lost Rhett, but we added someone else, and it says just a producer, but he's so much more than that to us. But he is usually the man behind the screen. I finally got him to come in front of the screen. He's not drafting with us tonight, but we are going to talk a little bit later about Sleeper launched the Chop League, which is essentially just Sleeper's version of a guillotine league, and we did one of those here recently. So we're going to talk about that once we get done with this. But Jim, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, dude. Thanks for having me on. I saw that you lost Rhett and thought, I don't know, maybe I could provide color because I'm not actually doing anything in the draft.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you. Appreciate you joining in.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you came in at the right time when I have to just scramble to find, unfortunately, the less rotten fruit on the ground after all the trees have been picked clean. So now it turns ugly fast, doesn't it? Jeez.
Looks pretty clear with the start 3.
Yeah, that was a mistake with Alvin Kamara. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I didn't. And so now it's here's one thing.
So you're going to take Rashee Rice too, right?
I might as well.
So that your wide receiver 2 also isn't playing?
I legitimately want to take Chris Olave, but I refuse to take Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara on the same team simply because I think that's just stupid. So I'll go as long as Joe Flacco can carry him, Jerry Jeudy, which is gross. But I feel like it's as simple and safe a path to 20+% target share every week until they decide to play quarterback roulette or whatever they're going to do with this season. No more Kenny Pickett, at least, so I don't have to worry about that.
Were you worried about Kenny Pickett?
I was never worried about Kenny Pickett. I'm worried about anything. It's Cleveland, man. Would it shock you if Kenny Pickett starts week 4? No, I don't think anything would shock us at this point with that organization.
Super Bowl winning quarterback, Kenny Pickett.
Yes, true. That's true.
Nate, I just got to say, last year, my winning roster, my starting wide receivers, Brian Thomas, Romeo Doubs, Hollywood Brown, and Parker Washington. So
Fair
you
enough.
don't necessarily need a studly wide receiver room in a start 3 if you got stud running backs.
That is true. I appreciate the I would say the support. I do want to talk a little bit about this round just because I've seen a few value picks that maybe I want to get your 2 cents on. Is Kurt at the 6-6 pick with Tony Pollard. We're going to talk earlier, or we can talk now about the Tyjae Spears injury, which seems to be pretty significant. Tony Pollard wouldn't shock me if he were to go 2 rounds earlier and be somewhere in that Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara range. Is that crazy for me to think that he has that potential value?
I'd take him over Alvin Kamara.
How dare you? Brought you. Get out of here.
But I mean, there's Kyle's not here, but I know Drew likes him. I mean, just compare the quarterbacks because New Orleans finally declared their starter today, right? And it looks like they're in a race now with Indy for Archie Manning. So, which is awesome because there's a narrative for both teams, and I really enjoy narratives. But just look at the quarterback situation of the better offenses. I do think Kamara is a better player, but I think Pollard's in line to get a lot more positive word.
I'm banking on Kamara having 90 plus targets in a full point. Wait. Note for everybody, know your league settings. And that's one thing I didn't specifically, I meant to check that before because I can't remember from last year. This is full point, right?
Yeah, I think so. I also didn't check because I haven't looked at the league settings since we created this league last year. So I have no idea if it's full point, but I think it is though.
See, everybody, you don't need to know actually how your league is set up or any of those semantics.
Oh, shit. Back on the man. God.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck.
It's ugly.
Nate, do you think
I'm gonna
there's a
have to
chance
do it,
Kamara
man.
plays for a different team?
Man, I don't have an answer for that. I feel like the running back market in trades is so tricky because if you're New Orleans, what return could you possibly get for a player, and what team wants to give up draft capital for a running back? Granted, there's plenty of teams out there that would love to have his skill set. It's okay. Well, don't have to worry about Olave, but would I love for him to be on a different team as long as he doesn't go to a team that has a committee approach, because at least he's the lone wolf, and I don't care what anybody says about Kendre Miller. I'm not worried about Kendre Miller.
Shouldn't be
really taking too much. I should not be.
Nope.
All right.
What are you thinking, Nate? Another running back?
I don't know.
Backup QB?
A backup QB would be a solid spot. This is not a super flex, but it would hinder other teams from getting one. When I look at the tight end market right now is, again, kind of like all clumped together. Nobody stands out specifically. So, what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with a player where I hope the calf injury is fine. And I think that there's a path to him who, on a per route basis, Juwan Jennings was really, really good last year. And I don't love it. It is not as sexy. As Chris, you said earlier, your wide receiver room doesn't have to be sexy as long as they're productive. If Juwan Jennings is healthy, while I love Ricky Pearsall, if the offense is actually sustainable, like I think we all think they will be, there's a pretty good path for Juwan Jennings to be a decent wide receiver 3. I think he couldn't be a wide receiver 2. I wouldn't bank on it. I don't want to invest too much optimism with that, but this is a fun part of the draft where you see players' names that you go, oh yeah, that would have been a smart pick. And I'm waiting to see about 2 or 3 of those before my next pick around. And that's it's a lesson for anybody that wants to do a mock draft still before your actual draft. If you haven't done them, while the mock drafts, I think most people hate them because they're like, it doesn't work out that way. That's the one thing I take from them. When I get to these rounds from like 7 to 12 and I see a name that I go, hell, that's all I try to remember is remember in round 11 when you hated that so-and-so took this person. highlight that person. Simple tech, simple little strategy, but it's decently
It's
effective.
a good tip, though.
Yeah, thanks.
I've been pretty adamantly against mock drafts for most of my fantasy football career, but actually this is a good time for me to shout out the show that I'm on. I've only done 2 this year. Both of them were here. Both of them were informative and really interesting. And I think that a lot of actionable content came out of both. The thing that of note, though, is that all the spots were filled by people.
Good.
I think that makes a huge difference when you're talking about mocking, because the AI generated or ADP picks, auto picks or whatever, I don't think there's a lot of actionable, information coming from that. But both times I thought that the drafts that went on here were really good.
Boys, I hate to tell you all this, but the verdict is in. I'm sorry. Pay no attention to the last name. There's no bias here or anything like that. My wife definitely has no bias, but the league's over, guys. I have my apologies. Sorry in advance. But no, Jim, I completely agree with your point, though. I think the mock drafts, whenever you have 11 other people or however many other people that are whatever size mock you want to do, I think those are extremely, extremely helpful. But whenever it's you versus 11 robots, it's basically just you versus ADP at that point, so you really can't learn much.
Yeah, they weren't slouches either. I remember legitimately getting pissed off at some of the stuff Jorge was doing. And I think you had the 12 spot, and you were down there getting frustrated and excited at the same time. It was pretty good.
There it is. I was wondering when Rice was going to go off the board. Now
I had him
because I
had him ready to go.
Hard about doing it. Where I took Olave in the 7th round, but I felt like I couldn't afford to take Rice. I passed on him, and I almost took Rice. So, Nate, I understand why you didn't take Rice in the 7th round, because you were still trying to find your 3rd starting receiver. But so, Jim, let me ask you as an observer, if you would have been in my shoes right there in the 7th round, would you, since I already had 3 receivers, would you have taken Rashee Rice over Chris Olave?
No, I think now. I don't know that I would have taken Olave. I think any receiver. I like the next 2 more, but knowing the dude's going to miss 6 games, the 4th receiver to me, I assume I'm not part of the league. I don't know if there's a flex. I assume there is. But the flex to me is we've got 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 receivers, a tight end, and then 3 flex spots. Yeah,
so
I treat every flex as a wide receiver spot. So to me, that spot is a starter, and I'm not giving that up for 6 weeks. I think that 8, 9, 10 is probably the right spot for Rice, but it all depends on how you build. I'd want at least 4 before I consider him. And I don't know. It looks like every team's got. No, that's not true. If you look at team 9, he doesn't have 3, so I wouldn't take it there. Not that, or team 10, excuse me, team 9 and 10. I think that spot, anyway, to answer your question better, I wouldn't take Olave, or I wouldn't take Rice there because it's a startable spot. So I think round 8 is probably the earliest I consider him for most teams.
You just can't quit him, can you, Drew?
All right, so it's got to get to a point. He's got to get to a point to where he's hitting your bench before you'll consider taking Rice.
Yeah, and I will say I was considering if he had slipped to me, as much as I wasn't in a position to take him. The upside that I have, at least Kamara in the flex, and I can fill out the rest of my flex spots without having to jeopardize the consistency week to week. Hopefully, I'm not disappointed because I really do like Tucker Kraft, and I'm fine with that tight end grouping of where I got him. But let's talk about Michael Pittman, because as much as you and I both have loved him over the years, we've been let down by quarterback play and just production kind of for our expectation. But I think Daniel Jones is possibly the best quarterback he's had as far as consistency of getting him the ball in maybe our beliefs. Is that fair to say?
Flacco.
It's pretty fair. I mean, watch
Yeah,
Matt
might be
Ryan and
right.
Joe Flacco were both pretty solid.
Matt Ryan in India. I don't know if he was solid at that point, man. It was rough.
I think I would probably take watch Matt Ryan over Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones is still an upgrade over what they had last year.
Let's build in.
But I mean,
Ooh,
Michael
Drew, was that
Michael
tough
Pittman
to
played.
say?
Michael Pittman played last year with his back like snapped in half and still walked away with a shit ton of targets. And so, with him healthy, I think you don't earn that many targets that often without being a good player. And so I think that in a league this deep, whenever we're talking about the 8th round, he was going in the 4th, 5th round last year. I think that at that point, I'm willing to take the shot on him.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, is where he's being taken minimizes the concern for the floor, and it just accentuates the ceiling that there could be, especially as your wide receiver 5. I mean, it's as good as my wide receiver 3. I hate to say it like that, but might as well beat myself up, because at this point it's really just trying to figure out which wide receiver 2/3 on the team is going to have the most consistent, high quality, targets. I guess at this point, I'll take targets over high quality targets. Just any of them would be nice, considering the names that if you saw my list, viewers, listeners, etc., you would be feeling the same way I am. And I think you know who we're talking about. This group is pretty ugly. So I'll let you guys talk why. Moan and groan and bitch.
Yeah, I wanted to fill my last flex spot there really bad. There were some receivers that I still really liked, but I feel like Mark Andrews has fallen a little bit too far at this point. You guys know how much I like Tucker Kraft this year. I didn't expect Tucker Kraft to go in front of him. I didn't expect Tyler Warren to go in front of him. And so even though I like some other tight ends later, I feel like at that point I needed to get him there's a drop off after Andrews at the tight end position. Ingram's is in there as well, but they're really the last two at tight end that I'm comfortable with that were on the board. So I went ahead and went that direction. But there were some receivers I was tempted to take instead. But it was tough. Chris, you're approaching on the turn here. You're on quite the running back run. What's your I know obviously you're going to attack receiver a little bit here, but I know you've always kind of been a running back guy. So this doesn't really surprise me that much, to be honest with you, seeing you fill out, you have your 3 starting receivers. So seeing you fill out the flex spots with the running back is kind of on brand for you. So just kind of talk to me a little bit about your strategy in redraft leagues with how that goes.
Yeah, I usually tend to go hero running back depending where I'm drafting. Back into the draft, I like to just take what the board's going to give me. Seeing the elite wide receivers on the back end and how much that you've talked about Drake London, I couldn't pass up the potential production in a full PPR league. Snagging 2 wide receivers that could be at the top end of targets when it's all said and done. And then with the running backs that I grabbed, I was just taking what the board was giving me. I was everything in front of me was blue and orange. There wasn't a lot of green. So I was going to scoop up the starting running backs for their teams that are in spots that are going to see a decent workload to go with my starting 3 stud wide receivers. Ted McMillan, the rookie coming in, I might be picking him at his ceiling based on where I grabbed them there, but I'm okay with that because with the Panthers getting rid of Adam Thielen today, there is a high potential for Ted McMillan to see a good amount of at least touchdowns to go with the passing volume he's going to see with the improved Bryce Young. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, Ted McMillan as my 3, Ken Walker as my RB1. Not really hero RB. Maybe he's like the sidekick RB. He's the Robin to the hero RBs. I'll take that for now, and then filled out the rest of my running back room with a bunch of just solid depth guys that I'm not too mad at.
I'm going to stop you right there, though, because you're on the clock and you only got about 35 seconds left. So I want you to make sure that you can make your pick. But, yeah, while you're making your pick, I'll just tell you that I don't know if I would have went on the running back run that you went on quite like that, but I can tell you that second, third, fourth round run that you went on, I mean, that damn near could be like a preview of my portion of our My Guy show next week. Like, I love those 3 picks, man. Absolutely.
Maybe I got a little preview. People don't need to know. Maybe I got a little preview of your My Guys.
Yeah, you got the leak. Yeah.
Little inside information, inside trading there.
Scampers was not a fan of the Tataroa pick. He was hoping that he would have fallen back to him. Scampers, I'm going to let you know, man, he was not making it back to you at the end of the fourth. I would have sniped you a couple picks before if he wouldn't have done it, and then Nate probably would have sniped me. So, it's all bad. But
now that Chris is around the turn, I have a question. As the first person I've met in real life that's drafted Javonte Williams, is that like you hope that Miles Sanders also gets injured like Jaden Blue, or
yeah, I mean that's the hope. Hoping for injuries is always my goal. I got my voodoo dolls, my Miles Sanders voodoo doll. I'm gonna be sticking pins in tonight. But it's just, if there's any potential that he could be the running back one for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm gonna grab that. I probably should have taken the 3 guys after him over Javonte Williams, but I've always been a Javonte Williams guy, and I'm gonna scoop him up where I can get him. High on Javonte Williams this year, not too high, maybe a little too high,
all right,
maybe a little too high, but.
Now I've got to ask, Jim, is that just hyperbole, or do you really think that Miles Sanders is going to be above Javonte?
I think that Dallas is going to throw the ball like 90% of the time, and not to running backs. I don't think. To answer that question, I don't care. I think that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was a joke set up, and we weren't actually.
No, dude. I really. So it's because I think this. I don't typically cross people like 100% off my list. I'll take most people at some point.
Right.
This year,
agreed.
There have been 2 exceptions. One is the Dallas running backs. The other is Joe Mixon. And I just don't like.
Great call.
Both veteran running backs have had more than their opportunity, their fair share on previous teams, and I've been kind of lucky this year to get some insight into and actually, Chris, you could probably speak to this too. Jaden Blue's kind of portfolio coming in, and he's injured. I just don't. I think that every passing option in Dallas is awesome, and every running back. I don't honestly. I think that Dallas doesn't know what it has or what it doesn't have in their running backs, because the fact that, I mean, you look at you look at any running back getting cut right now, and I think that they're better than what Dallas has. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to make that take.
I agree. I agree with that.
I don't know if I agree with that, though.
I almost took Jaden Reed in the 9th round. He was the receiver I was struggling with. Like, do I take Jaden Reed or do I take Mark Andrews? And then Jaden Reed almost made it back around to me, and then he didn't. And so now
you bear the
took Luther Burden. Yeah, I bear the burden. I don't love it because I have no idea what the hell they're going to do in that offense. But I like Luther Burden, the player, and I think that there's a decent chance he plays the slot role in that offense. I mean, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, they were the 2 primary outside receivers last year. I don't know why that would change this year. And then I would imagine Luther Burden will fit in nicely in the slot there. And I love his game. I love the talent. So we'll just take a shot there. It was really close between him and Jaden Higgins. They were the 2 I was deciding between. So that was a tough one to make, but I ended up going with Burden. So we'll see how much I end up hating that pick here in a couple of weeks whenever he's not doing shit. But it's okay. You got to take your lumps.
Jaden Higgins was one.
I got my starting lineup filled, so now I can take Rashee Rice now.
Right, exactly. You can take Joe Mixon still too. Just the long
he
way.
Is,
the long
he
game.
Is quite. I'm with Jim. He is quite literally off my board. I completely agree with him on that.
You know, the only reason I would take Mixon is if a number of other players that are IR eligible were both gone, because I'll use that spot for listeners and all that still have drafts. If you have a kicker defense in your league, which we don't in this, I don't think we do, at least good. There is a really nice strategy of taking a player that's going to be immediately IR eligible, draft him in the later rounds. Don't really care if you pick him up or not, because it opens up an extra spot for you in the 14th, 15th to just take a high upside player, not draft your quarterback or kicker, as long as your league rules allow you to not, draft a full roster, which I don't know many that, some do, some don't. Obviously ask the rules before you get going, but because I'll pick up a kicker or a defense in reality. I know people are against it sometimes, but give me that IR spot, take it, fill in it later, and hope for upside.
Yeah, and so this is I took Jalen Hurts early. I completely punted quarterback in this league last year, and so I wanted to switch things up a little bit. But shit like this is the reason why I always regret taking a quarterback early. And I'm usually the biggest proponent of late round quarterback, because Bo Nix in the 10th round is truly silly.
Yep. I mean, I see one quarterback that I 100% think that there's a good case that he and Joe Burrow will have a very similar stat line at the end of the season.
Yep.
And I could have taken the person, not to give many things away.
Shedeur?
It could be Shedeur. It also could be the quarterback for the person who was taken one pick after my Joe Burrow pick. But yeah, and I look back at him like, man, would I have rather had Pickens or Ridley and this quarterback, or Burrow and then, the garbage that I am left with right now, which unfortunately is someone like this, Joshua Palmer, which I don't love. But
I like Josh Palmer, man.
I love Josh Palmer this year. I know the Keon Coleman talk is really kind of drowned out Josh Palmer's early preseason hype that his team was giving him, but I don't think I would be shocked if he led the team in most receiving categories.
It wouldn't surprise me all that much, to be honest with you. It really wasn't. Khalil Shakir is fine.
Sure.
He's fine. Dalton Kincaid really didn't. There's one or two, but there's not a lot of underlying metrics you can point to paint a positive picture for Dalton Kincaid. Keon Coleman, the only way I think I would be in on Keon Coleman is if we knew that they were going to move him into a big slot role. If they did that, if they said Keon Coleman is going to be a primary big slot guy for us, I would be in on Keon Coleman. But if Keon Coleman is going to be an outside receiver, I just don't think I know his physical build fits it, but I don't think his skill set fits it. And so I think we're going to see a lot more what we saw year one if the role remains the same for Keon Coleman. And so Josh Palmer, I mean, he's had a history of getting banged up, but the weeks he's out there, man, he's been a really solid receiver. So I really don't hate that pick.
You know what I hate about the pick is any given week. I hope it's exclusively bye-week replacement, because I don't think that he's the type of player that I can look at a matchup any given week and be like, you know what, this is the week that Josh Palmer is going to exploit the number 2 cornerback on X, Y, and Z's team. I don't see Josh Palmer as that dynamic. I feel like it's we always do the best ball. Always a better best ball player. But that sometimes does have some effect when you're picking some of these guys late. But I'm just going for offense, opportunity, and I think he's going to be on the field with enough targets over some of the other names that are surrounded in this garbage pool right now. Adam
Thielen went home to Minnesota. Chris, I'm going to have you talk about that once you make your next pick. So you just go ahead and get the brain working, because that's, we need to know the thought process behind your 11th round pick. It's very, very important.
Exactly.
But so you guys let me know how you feel. We got an Ollie Gordon sighting in the 11th round.
Yep.
2 years ago, I thought Ollie Gordon was going to be like the first running back in this running back class, and then the down year happens last year. So, Chris, before I ask you about your roster, I'm going to throw this to you since you're our resident college fantasy football guy, and you kind of saw this all unfold probably closer than anybody else did. What do you make of Ollie Gordon? Was he was he highly thought of by you 2 years ago as well, and then you saw the downfall happen, or what was your whole thought process on Ollie Gordon as he led up to the draft?
Yes, his 2023 was massive. He was going in a lot of Devi drafts as the running back one, C2C drafts, supplemental drafts. He was going as the running back one, and then he kind of faltered last season. He still had a decent year, but he didn't put up what he put up in 2023. And then we obviously saw what Ashton Janty did, the Heisman campaign that he put up in Boise State. It was almost undeniable for him to come out as the running back one. Seeing the Ollie Gordon drop was kind of surprising because of what he was able to put on tape for those couple of seasons. So seeing where he went drafted was a little bit surprising. I thought he'd get a little bit more. I thought he'd be a little bit more touted in the NFL draft, but the opportunity on Miami could be massive for him. And based on where he's drafted in this draft, if he does get thrusted into any kind of a prominent role for the Miami Dolphins, he could go down as one of the values in all the running backs in fantasy for 2025. So the 2023 wasn't the 2024 wasn't as solid as the 2023. He wasn't as big as a fantasy producer. But if you deep dive into his 2023, a lot of that was on a couple really big games for him where he was putting up 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. So when you look at a player like Ollie Gordon and you look at his output, when you expand his output throughout the season and you kind of pinpoint where that production come from, you can see that he did struggle a little bit against some of the tougher opponents, and a lot of his production came against some of those weaker squads. Still a great runner. I mean, Devon Achane, as good as he's been, hasn't been able to stay healthy through a whole season. So there is opportunity for Gordon to be a fantasy producing running back. I don't hate the pick there, man.
That being said, with me having HN, the question then, which this is the question I have for many, and I fall prey to going both sides of this argument. Would you rather have your own quote unquote handcuff to a player who is a little more of a high injury risk player, especially if we're talking the 12th round, not a handcuff in the 8th or 9th round? Or would you rather handcuff someone else's so you secure potential multiple backfields? Drew, let's start with you. What if you chose one direction? Which way would that be?
Yeah, I want somebody else's handcuff. I want the opportunity to where if somebody else's starting running back goes down, that I profit from it and I get an additional startable player out of it. Now, don't get me wrong; it's a nice feeling whenever you have your own starting running backs handcuff, and then if the injury does happen, you don't have to go and blow all your fab or blow a top waiver priority spot to be able to go get that guy off waivers. You've already got him sitting there. So that part, that is nice. Don't get me wrong, but I prefer to just draft other people's backups, and I really just look for situations to where I think that maybe they could possibly have some standalone value even without an injury. But then if an injury were to occur, then the role just grows even larger. It's kind of what I went with my last 2 picks with Braylon Allen and Tank Bigsby. It's weird that those were the 2 guys that I took because I'm a fan of Breece Hall, I'm a fan of Travis Etienne. I think that those are going to be the guys, but the drum beat has been loud enough to where I'm at least a little bit intrigued to hedge my bets. And it seems like, speaking of handcuffs, it seems like a couple guys we're drafting with were not happy with our handcuffed picks because I took Tank Bigsby and got a damn it Drew, and you took Trey Benson and got a really Nate. So I'm gonna say we sniped a couple people on some on some handcuffs there, and then Brandon lets us know that Adam Silver has traded Micah Parsons to the Packers. So now we just gotta wait and see where Chris Paul ends up. So that's where I stand on that. I know, Nate, you got some picks coming up. Jim, what are your thoughts on handcuffs? Once you've got your flex spots filled out, do you start to attack those stash running backs, or do you continue to? Oh man, hey guys, sorry, I gotta pause this question because I gotta throw this up on the screen. My daughter dropped it in the comments. I love you too, sweetheart. But so Jim, what's kind of your strategy once you get your starting lineups and you start attacking your bench? What do you typically go with?
I'll be honest. Sometimes these running backs we're talking about are my RB1s. So if that's any indication of how I feel.
Okay, gotcha.
I
so
think,
very heavy zero RB.
But not always. But I'm not going to get into my whole draft strategy right now either. You guys are in the middle of a draft, but I will say I agree with you. But I'm going to answer it a little more mathematically. If you draft A-Chain in the first round and you draft Omarion Hampton as a backup, Omarion Hampton is not going to replace. Ollie Gordon is not going to replace that production that you lost by taking Achane in the first round. So I'd rather take. Exactly. I think that if you look at Team 11, who has Zach Charbonnet and also, Zach Charbonnet, for example, he owns Kenneth Walker's handcuff, and I think that's a lot more valuable to say, okay, this one goes down. Now I own the player. So you're hurting somebody twice, or you're winning twice. Right. I'll say it that way. So you lose Achane, I own Ollie Gordon. You lose those points and I gain those points. It widens that gap of what you have. But at the same time, if you're taking somebody else's handcuff and their primary player goes down, now you're doubling it down with if Achane stays healthy and you have Charbonnet and Walker goes down, you've strengthened your room while theirs is weakened. So it's not just a question of replacing production that you lose, but it's widening the gap between you and your league mates when inevitably that starter goes down. I don't know if I got all that right, but that's basically
no. I couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it better, and I quite literally didn't say it better. I had a chance to say it as good as that. I spoke first, and I did not say it anywhere near as well as that. So, see, we got to get you from behind the screen more often, man. Our viewers would be smarter for having you in front of the screen more often. So,
I've talked about this. I can't do analysis. I just draft too much, but I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Are we past Nate yet? No, he's still.
No, unfortunately, I'm still looking for garbage.
He's
rooting through the garbage bin and hoping to find only the semi-rotten banana that
you can do it. You can do it, Nate. This is the part of the draft where we take chicken salad, where we take chicken shit, make chicken salad.
There we go. That's what I like to hear. I know. You know what I'm gonna do? I do a terrible backup quarterback that I don't need, but
yeah.
I was not a terrible quarterback. I don't mean Drake May is a terrible quarterback, but I just hate drafting.
You just don't need a second quarterback.
Not when you have Joe Burrow. But at the same time, no one's let's be honest. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, my thought process was, I'm going to take this backup quarterback. And then when someone needs one, I'll get a ransom if Drake May turn, nobody in the history of fantasy has really actually done that successfully year after year. Maybe one-off. I will say last year I had plenty of lucky shares of Jaden Daniels as a second behind like a first one, which that's the thing is I had to invest a little higher than I wanted to on some of those, or multiple years back, you hit on some of these guys and sure, you can turn that person around. And maybe Drake May's that guy, but I really was hoping for Dak and, DJ at 3 to wait at quarterback is exactly what the reason why. I mean, if you can wait to the 13th round and get legitimately, a 4,500 yard passer is a possibility this year with 30. I don't want to get too hyperbolic, but 35 plus touchdowns is I'm not going to be shocked. We talked about the running game there, lack thereof. The defense, especially if Micah Parsons leaves, which we don't know. I don't think he does, but regardless, even with him there, they're just good enough to probably make them have to keep passing the ball. And I think that all signs say they're going to just air it out. And the addition of George Pickens makes that passing game that much without an injury. I think Dak is as safe in my eyes as a top 10 quarterback as there will be without, especially not having that rushing upside. I love it. I mean, I don't want to say that's my favorite pick of the draft because that's a little hard to say, but it's the burden I bear by taking a quarterback early. And the old hindsight rule is, had I thought this, I knew it. It was going through my head, but I just decided to go with Burrow because it's fucking Joe Burrow. Nothing's going to be wrong with that.
No, I know, man. I did the same thing with Jalen Hurts. I was like, I got A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts at that point is the QB5 off the board if I take him.
Yeah.
It made all the sense in the world in my head, but I knew there would be a couple quarterbacks taken late that would make me regret it. And Dak Prescott, Drake May in the 13th round are both such great values. And it just, just more reason why I could have taken Garrett Wilson or Marvin Harrison Jr. instead of Jalen Hurts and added my wide receiver 2 instead of taking a quarterback in the league where you only have to start one of them, which is something I almost never do. But here we are, though.
So let's play this fun game I like to play sometimes when I should be looking for players to draft, but instead I look at situations. And I look at Albert's team who doesn't have a quarterback, and I want to play the game of, does he wait? Will he take one in the 14th or 15th, or just say, at this point, I don't care who I get, hoping 2 or 3 other teams don't double up, leaving it less. Mm-hmm. And who is Albert going to take as his QB1, Chris?
I think he's going to roll with Cam Ward out of Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is just like a lot of these other bottom teams in the NFL is bad. And there's going to be an opportunity for Cam Ward to sling the ball a lot. CJ Stroud's another one.
Pairs up with
Nico. I'm just saying CJ Stroud because of the Nico. Yeah.
Oh,
CJ
yeah.
Stroud,
I mean, Brock Purdy's
CJ
no
Stroud
slouch.
or Trevor Lawrence for the stack.
So fun. Ironically, the top 4 really, in my eyes, as far as who he would take, all pair up with a receiver that he has in Nico, Stroud, BTJ, Trevor Lawrence, Pearsall, Purdy, and then I take that back. Goff must have just went. I must have missed it. Yeah. Okay. So that was the other.
I bet you he waits 3 more rounds to pick, or 2 more rounds to pick at least one if he takes 2.
Honestly, I would.
He's not taking one here.
At this point, yeah.
I would double up and take 2 quarterbacks with my last 2 picks if that was me.
And there we go. I think, and I love that. I think that is a fun strategy as you take, and that's if you're going to double up, I think you go with floor ceiling, not 2 ceiling plays, not 2 floor plays, and that's maybe is that Caleb Williams and Brock Purdy. I mean, that seems like a pretty sexy kind of potentially upside, or the high. Cam Ward, of course, absolutely. I think Cam. Well, Caleb was another one's going to
can't take Caleb now.
So now the game begins. Who's listening and who wants to go ahead and triple up on quarterbacks so that Albert has to start?
Go ahead, Nate.
Matthew Stafford. I'm not doing that. No way.
I think
I have integrity.
Rather than we can point out that he hasn't taken a quarterback yet, but I think the point that you're really kind of making is that you can wait on quarterbacks. I mean, I think a lot of these teams right here didn't need to take 2. And I mean, that's not criticism. I'm just saying they didn't. And I think what is available could be even deeper than what's available in this draft. Yeah. And even with almost every team taking 2 quarterbacks, there's a lot of meat left on the bone. So I think that's the takeaway from your question, Nate, is how late can you wait? It looks like at least round 16. And I'm going to actually carry that point forward a little bit, if you don't mind. I think that round 13 was absolutely fascinating for a lot of reasons. The Patriots going there, Leggett, there's a lot of talking points there. I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I didn't want to give away anything in the draft or influence anything. But Jared Goff going just late period has been one of the most mind-blowing things to me this summer. Look at where his weapons go. He's got two players that receive, like Gibbs can receive as well. Going in the first round, you've got Laporta and Jamison Williams going around 5-6. David Montgomery not too far after. A a lot of people are talking about some of the other players on that team for other reasons. Again, there's a draft going on. But you can get, all these dudes are supposed to be prolific, number one, best of the, awesome offense. And their quarterback goes, 10 to 15 rounds, sometimes undrafted after these players. And I think this is the earliest I've seen him go. And I don't have an issue with it. I think that's probably what his price should be.
Mm-hmm.
But the disparity between those offensive weapons and where the quarterback is going is baffling to me. There's another team that has that same situation. It's been a little bit different the last couple weeks, but to take Goff that late with his weapons going so high, I think is anything past round 10 is a steal. And I don't know why you could pair him with a Cam Ward or Bryce Young, anybody you think might break out again this year.
That was my pairing last year, and probably I can't say 50% of the leagues because I don't know what that percentage or that number was, but I know it was a really high. It was the most common pairing was Goff and Jaden Daniels. It was that high upside, the rushing floor, of course, and everything with Jaden Daniels, and then the safety of Jared Goff. And Jared Goff had last year benefit of playing so many games indoors. I think it's the Ben Johnson effect that is dropped his perceived value. Is people just assume that Ben Johnson leaving is going to diminish that offense, and the defense maybe with a healthy Aiden Hutchinson might be better and they'll run. I don't believe that. I believe that Dan Campbell and company is going to stick with that same mentality, and Goff's going to be a very safe pick where if you did, and he took Josh Allen as his QB1, so he doesn't have to have Jared Goff, but had he not, I'm never going to discredit taking Josh Allen for any of the players taken after, because in the fourth round, if you can get Josh Allen as the QB4 off the board, you take that as a victory all day long. But had it not been that case, you waiting there is, I agree with you. I like a lot of the quarterbacks here, and I feel that it continues to reaffirm, like, Drew pointed out at the very beginning, Chris has mentioned, I've mentioned, we've all said it 1,000 times over. Outside of the top 5, then it's just you have no business not waiting, as far as I'm concerned, because the difference between Baker Mayfield, the upside pick out of the one in the group is Justin Fields, if you ask me, just from the rushing floor alone. But man, I'm content with Knicks, with Dak, with Goff, even Caleb, Drake May, for instance. I'm fine with that. All right, I'm on the clock, so I'll shut up and let you guys ridicule this pick.
No, I do. I agree with your point. And I know this league's a little bit deeper than like your typical redraft league. And so it's a little bit harder to stream quarterback. Because, I mean, this was the same thing that happened last year too. There were quarterbacks being stashed. And so I get wanting to take 2 quarterbacks, but if I'm the Josh Allen owner, if I'm the Lamar Jackson owner, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, there's no way I'm drafting. I don't care how deep the league is. It would I say that. This league is not deep enough for me to draft 2 quarterbacks. I'll put it that way. There is a point. There's always a point. But this league is not deep enough to take 2 quarterbacks. I think Brock Purdy right there in the 15th round. I think that's great value. I love the Kendre Miller pick. I think he's a really underrated handcuff. Now that Dennis Allen isn't there to just bury him into the ground, I don't know if Kendre Miller fucked Dennis Allen's wife or what was going on there, but the treatment that he got was just absolutely absurd. I think that he's a really underrated handcuff, so I like that pick quite a bit as well. And then Cam Ward, man, he has to be like one of the most underrated number 1 picks in quite some time. Oh, yeah. I did not think anybody else would take Jarquez Hunter. I really didn't. I got to be honest. I thought I'd be the only one who would want it. Man. Blake Corum is still on the board, and I just assumed that Blake Corum would be everybody's choice to take as the second Rams running back off the board. So I thought Jarquez Hunter would be a layup for me, but I was wrong, unfortunately.
That's what you get for assuming, Drew.
Yeah, you know what they say about assuming. It makes an ass out of you and me, but this time it was just an ass out of me. Damn it, man.
Wow, the tilt in round 16 is always
there is never
always sweet.
Tilted. There is never a time where tilting is off the board for me.
Oh no, I tilt before, after the draft. All right, speaking of after the draft, talk about sites like Yahoo, etc., that give rankings or grades
Oh yeah.
after your draft.
Yeah.
Would you rather, Jim, start with you? Would you rather get an A+ or a D- in your draft grade, courtesy of their draft tool?
I don't usually have a choice. They're pretty low scores.
Yeah, boy.
But I want to say statistically, it's probably better to get a D- than a good grade from Yahoo.
It really seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they grade on depth. As Drew pointed out, once you get Josh Allen, there's no reason to take another one. So yeah, a low score for me.
Drew?
Yep. I completely agree. I feel like if I ever get a high score, I feel like I just completely botched the draft, and then I just start to figure. I look back and like, where did I fuck up at that they think that I did good? So yeah, I completely agree. Give me all the failing grades. Damian Pierce in the 16th round is a pretty nice.
Oh, mother! I've been searching for that name for way too long, and I had to have overlooked it like 3. I must have been scrolling too fast, coming up with stupid questions for you guys to answer. I swear, I've ruined.
I'll ask questions. I'm on the clock right now where I've accidentally drafted Jahmyr Gibbs and Derrick Henry at the 6. So now my options are Higgins, McLaurin, or Evans. And I think I know where I want to go. But just out of curiosity, does anybody think Worthy is worth moving up that high to be my wide receiver 1 in the 3rd round?
T Higgins is the only receiver of those 3 that I have in my top 12, so he would be the wide receiver 1 for me in that scenario. But I don't know if these guys agree. Nate, you're making
Nate's on the clock.
I'm done
now that you made your pick. Our resident Chiefs fan with Rashee Rice slated to miss the first 6 weeks. Do you think can you make an argument that Xavier Worthy would be worth taking over Mike Evans or T Higgins?
Oh man, I think there's a case he could be mixed into that same pairing, and with the upside of the lack of targets. Like if I look at the other names, obviously T Higgins, we know Jamar Chase is the one. T Higgins is as good a 1B/2 of any player on any team. The Mike Evans conversation for me is, at that point it's the age decline that I think we've been talking about for 5 years now in a row. And so if you try to find warts in each game, and Xavier Worthy has maybe a few outside of not playing as many years and having the pedigree. We saw at the end of the season that he was capable of taking on a couple different roles that they didn't expect it. If the Chiefs truly do go downfield, and that's going to be the question mark, is they talk about it a lot right now. They're going to go downfield. They're going to go downfield. They're going to go downfield. And that's going to open up the opportunity for Xavier Worthy to really, I think, outperform the numbers of with the full season. I think T Higgins is the most likely to be number 1 there of the grouping. But boy, without Rashee, I can see a path for Xavier Worthy to be easily in that conversation. I still would lean Higgins over everybody else. Sorry, that was very long-winded roundabout carousel version to get back to pretty much I concur.
Yeah, and I'll add this at the end. The last 3 years that both Higgins and Burrow have been healthy, Higgins has been a top 12 receiver in points per game.
Right.
So it is truly that simple for me.
And Jim, if you take him, then my Joe Burrow quarterback in here, you and I can collectively root together. We can virtually high five. We can discuss, do a lot of, activities. It'd be great.
All right. Higgins it is. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Final thoughts on our listener league draft now that it's wrapped up before I'm going to throw one other draft on the screen, and we're going to just quickly talk about it real quick, which if you guys need to go, me and Jim can hold the fort down. But quick thoughts, any surprise pick? I think we've belabored the Patrick Mahomes thing, but outside of Mahomes going in the 4th round, any surprise picks, whether it be somebody going higher than you thought, somebody going lower than you thought? You guys just go ahead and get prepared, scan the screen, because I'm going to throw it to one of you guys here in just a minute. But looking at these guys, I think that one surprising thing to me, just in general, I think is just how spread out the quarterbacks were. In one quarterback leagues, it's always kind of unpredictable how it's going to go, but we didn't have a quarterback at all until the middle of the third round. And then 4 more quarterbacks went in the fourth round, 1 went in the fifth round. And then we didn't have another quarterback go off the board until the 8th round, which was Justin Fields, which I know Aiden is very high on Justin Fields this year. And so it wasn't surprising to see that Aiden was the one that took that. But then you had Kyler in the 9th round, Baker, Bo Nix in the 10th, and then another wait for, to where you kind of got the last of the back end QB1s. But I think that was probably the most interesting thing to watch play out for me as this draft went along. But that, the quarterback position in one quarterback leagues is always really tough to predict how that's going to go. But outside of the quarterbacks, Nate, any surprise pick for you, good or bad? I'm just going to go down the screen here.
It's so tricky to say surprise picks because nothing stands out. And I know you were hoping, you said prepare, get an answer, at least something.
You still didn't get one, did you?
And I still didn't get one. I think that I found that even this late, you can see that the upside hype play for even a non-keeper. In example one that I think, Caleb Johnson, who I really love going into the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Warren's done nothing to really lose a grasp on what I would consider the majority of the workload there, and he goes a full round at a pick later. Not that that's a bad pick, or I think that it's interesting to see at what level some of the rookie hype still holds true without going safe. And I think Austin Eckler, that's another good one there. Yeah. That I always wonder about the old Bill versus Austin Eckler scenario. Is do we chase? Is the hype for, and when I say Bill, I mean Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. For people that don't know the Bill name that he's going to go with, makes it simple. But
sorry, I always think of Bill Nye, the science guy, every time.
No, that's exactly. I am right there with you. I love shooting for upside, but I think that safety sometimes does drop, and I'm guilty of that just as much as anybody. But outside of that, nothing really shocking.
Chris, what about you? Anything that stood out as we went through the draft?
Nothing overall that's really caught my eye. That's like, I don't see a lot of egregious reaches. I don't see anyone that's been like a crazy value outside of possibly maybe some of the quarterbacks. But I'd like to push back a little bit on the quarterback talk there, because I think sometimes we tend to put a little bit of a premium, too high of a premium on value, especially at the quarterback position. One thing I've kind of learned is good quarterbacks will win you games, but great quarterbacks will win you championships. And if you look at the top end quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow, these are the guys that are on teams that are going to be fighting for playoff position or a playoff spot come fantasy football playoff times, week 14 to 17. And if you want to look back at what the top end quarterbacks were last year in fantasy points per game through that time, it's Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, who was like Jim said, great value there. Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow was in the top 7. So these are the guys that are trying to put their respective NFL teams in spots to make the playoffs and get a better spot potentially in the playoff bracket. So you can wait on a quarterback. It's not a bad strategy, but picking a top end quarterback at the top end of your draft too is not a bad strategy either, because Josh Allen, like I mentioned, these guys at the top are going to be putting up big fantasy points at the end of the year. And at the end of the year is when it's most important for fantasy managers who are in the playoffs and fighting for that championship trophy.
May I take a second and answer Aiden's question where he says, can someone tell me where the name Bill actually came from? And used a tool, Google, for anybody that doesn't know Google yet. I highly invest in
2 O's, right?
Yeah, 2 O's
Okay.
with an E at the end. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is called Bill because as a child, he had a very short haircut that made him look bald, leading friends to nickname him Little Bill, after the character from the children's TV show The Cosby Show, or Little Bill by The Bill Cosby Show. The nickname stuck with him and is one he prefers to use, even requesting it for his appearances in the NFL. 2 things on that real quick. Number 1, how in the world were he and his friends referencing The Cosby Show from 30 years his prior as like some notable nickname? If someone came up to one of you guys and was like using a Andy Griffith like comment from when you're a child, now I, as a child, would have made sense. I'm, pretty old. Who in the world was doing Bill Cosby references for Little Bill when I don't even pick up on that? But more power to him. That sounds like a very good fantasy name that no one would understand, that would incorporate probably a sex crime and the name Bill. I do not encourage it. The words express written consent do not reflect fantasy and frames.
I encourage it. I'm here for all the Bill Cosby references. Jim, any final thoughts on the draft before we move on?
Yeah, follow that one, Jim.
Yeah, good luck.
So as I won't use that reference, but my oldest son used to watch a cartoon television show based on the Cosbys called Little Bill. I don't remember what channel it was on, but I think there is a world where people of his age probably watch their younger siblings like watching that cartoon TV show based on it.
That's exactly right.
That would I think that's how we get the 30 years ago reference.
That probably is where the time lapse comes in.
I think you brought it up. I'll leave it alone. Do you got to move on?
Oh no. Sorry, I was just getting.
No, it's okay.
I was getting the next league pulled up while you talked. You're good.
I didn't really see any players that stood out to me, but I wanted to say something kind of cool. Where there was one team in there that really kind of like answered the handcuff question. I want to say it was Team 8. First of all, Mr. Scampers, I loved your team. I don't think we need to go into why I draft with Stacy, so that should explain why I think your team was awesome. But Team 8, who started with Omarion Hampton and Travion Henderson, who I know is everybody's darling right now. There's a path for both of them to do well. Hampton, yes, Travion's. We'll see what happens with Ramondre. But later on in the draft, he took, like we said, Charbonnet and Gordon. Gordon's going to be. Who knows what happens? He might be starting week 1, so that's a great player to kind of balance out and wait and see if Henderson, until Henderson wins the job is the way I'm going to put it. Like he might win it week 1, but if he doesn't, it takes a couple weeks. Gordon can get him there. And the same thing with Charbonnet. I think there's question marks about Kenneth Walker too. So the way he built that and started it is like kind of the perfect example of why you'd want to have somebody else's handcuffs, because he could do that with Ramondre and he could do that with Najee, but it kind of puts him in the same boat and he doesn't really get anything down the stretch. But by supplementing in the later rounds with those running backs, it opens him up to start the season strong. And then, as those players progress or win their jobs, he gets them back and gets those points. So I think that was a really good, like his team is a really good example of why you want to own somebody else's handcuffs instead of your own.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the whiskey. I don't know what it was, but Scampers, I agree with Jim. I think that you had a great draft. Love the team that you put together.
A+, Mr. Scampers. We graded an A+, just so you know.
Yeah, your team is doomed. Congratulations. All right, so one other team I want to throw up, or one other league rather, I want to throw up here real quick. So I mentioned earlier on that Jim and I drafted in a sleeper closet chopped. It's basically just a guillotine league where, if you're not familiar with it, it's a typical 12-team league, super flex, but each week the lowest scoring team gets I don't accept your grades. Thanks. Hey, we tried,
right.
But in these guillotine leagues, the lowest scoring team for the week gets eliminated from the league, and then all of their players get thrown into the waiver wire. So everybody has $1,000 fab budget, and it's basically, just to go after it. So I'm going to throw this up here. Jim was in the draft with us. Aiden was in the draft with us as well. And this is what the draft board ended up looking like. And so we ended up making it a super flex draft. So, I mean, it was quarterbacks at the top, like you would expect. And it was really interesting because you had to, it's a combination. It's a very, I don't want to say very different, but it's definitely a little bit different from just your typical redraft league because you're trying to make sure that you survive, but then you also want to Nate, I just saw the tag that you changed. That's great. Good job. Whoa. Yes. Hello. Literally. But so this league was a little bit different.
Now I have to change the grade when I put it on Spotify.
So Jim, I kind of want to get your perspective on this as we were going through this draft together. What was your thought process as we navigated the draft? I mean, it was super flex. You had the 101, so I feel like the 101 is pretty easy at that point. That's a layup, right? But from the 101 on, what was your thought process as you were going through this guillotine draft?
Win week one.
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah. But that actually didn't occur to me until honestly round 4, and now it's not going to work. But it was the other thing that was kind of weird was it's super flex, right? Which foolishly was my suggestion. And then I get the 101. So it comes all the way back down. And I'm like, oh, all right. If I just got to survive and it's super flex, everybody's going to take a quarterback, right? And I can't say I read the room wrong because I don't know the room, but right. I mean, typically in most super flex drafts that I've ever done, a lot more quarterbacks going, round 3. It didn't happen. So, the thing that I thought was most interesting, and I couldn't wait to talk about this until this morning, was I've got Raji Rice for 4 weeks, right? Because that's what everybody thought. And now my team went from it's no big deal. All I have to do is survive week 1, and then I'll just blow a ton of money on whoever doesn't make its best wide receiver, and I'll fill that hole and I'll be fine. Claire, leave it alone. And then fill the rest in with running backs. And I don't think it's going to work anymore. Now I think what I thought was a strength is a weakness, and I'm worried about week 1 already. So it's funny because going into this morning, I was like, oh, this is fine. I'll stay above it. And then now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm going to be fighting for my life for at least a couple of weeks.
I think you're in the clear to at least survive week 1, but you never know what's going to happen with this stuff. Nate, Chris, either one of y'all ever played in a guillotine league before?
No, sir.
Yeah. I usually get in 1 or 2 every year, and it's.
So talk to me about it, Nate, because this is my first one.
Yeah. So Jim's obviously survive strategy is by far the most common approach. The most difficult challenge with these leagues is determining when and how you spend your money, because if you spend it early and if the team, for instance, not to put this on anybody, but let's say that Jim, you just get unlucky and Rashee Rice and Hampton and them, you figure you can spend really heavily because Josh Allen would be available, and a team that would dump their entire payroll, if you will, or their fab or whatever the terminology you want to use for their money. By week 7, 8, if you do survive and you're down to nothing, at some point bye weeks are going to start creeping in. And that's where you really start to struggle, because I never draft with the intention of bye weeks being a big deal. Because if all my guys are on week 10 bye, I'll lose week 10, don't care. and I'll win the other ones because I have a full loaded roster. Well, it's hard to do in this type of format where if you have all week, early buys, once that week comes up. So you have to prioritize your money a little more strategically throughout and try to look at some of the nuances, which it's hard to do. I mean, you're not going to think of everything twice over because you get caught up in the draft and you're not looking at every single buy and every scenario possible. But it's such a fun, different format. I talked about this at the expo this year during one of our panels. They asked why playing like IDP or some of the other leagues is exciting. Is because we play in regular redraft and some dynasty here and there. And at some point, if you played nothing but redraft leagues after 25, 30 years, I'm not going to say it gets boring, but it's nice to spice it up a little. And this is one of those spicier changes. It makes you think a little bit more. And you three are so intelligent and you know what you're doing and you can be competitive in any regular league. To throw a wrinkle in is such a nice change to the other 11 leagues that you're monitoring. And it makes you, added depth. But yeah, Jim, I hate to say it. That is tricky. The Rashee Rice news sucks so bad. And you did a good job when Hampton's your one. If stupid Najee Harris does come back in, and one eye and all seems to steal some of the workload, at least I believe Chubb probably for week 1 will be the starter, where at least you have that to get you through.
Tyrone
but
Tracy will be the week 1 starter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think you're as bad off as you thought with, losing a 4th round pick sucks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I'm not too concerned with you personally as much as, I'm not going to say any of the other teams, throw anybody under the bus or anything, but I'm also optimistic. You get an A+ for this draft, by the way.
I'll throw this.
Congratulations, Jim. A+.
A+. I'll throw this up there too. It doesn't look the same as it does on the app. Of course it doesn't, man.
Oh, you're talking about it shows percentages?
Yeah, whenever you pull it up on your phone, there's such a cool view where you can see based on projections who's projected to be chopped, who's projected to be close to being chopped. But of course, the sleeper the sleeper website, whatever, it just doesn't do it as well, unfortunately. So that's a damn shame, but whatever. Okay, so one more discussion we got to have before we get out of here. So
get a little closer, Drew.
Sorry, my eyes are real bad. I wanted to throw this up there. Jim, we gotta talk about it because you sniped me on Tucker Kraft. I really wanted to grab him in the 11th round. And then you showed me just how deep you can get, no pause, in the 14th round whenever you took Cole Kmet. And I know we've had a lot of fun with the whole tight end discussion this offseason. So let's just talk about it. Your love or spoken love for Cole Kmet, is it a real thing? Is it a bit? What's going on here? Because we've made some jokes in passing through text, but we haven't really got to talk this out. So I need to know: is there some legit love for Cole Kmet here?
Yes. I will say that when I found it, Loveland had not yet returned to practice. I'm not deterred at all, but I think there is still a path for London to be more relevant than I expected. But I still think that statistically and narratively, if that's a word, that through narrative, there's a path that Cole Kmet will easily outperform his ADP. I was asked to put a number on what I think is in his range, and I think it's top 12. I don't. That's not really saying much when you talk about between 8 and 12 for tight ends. I think in a point per game, you're not really flag planting there, but I think you are for a guy that's going undrafted in most leagues. And if you, I mean, I've given it to you in chat, but I guess it's for everybody else. If you look at all the situations surrounding both tight ends, I know that Loveland has draft capital, But unless, except for Brock Bowers and Kyle Pitts, nobody's really come in with rookie profiles that mean they're going to produce like tight end 1 numbers their rookie year. Laporta is probably the only exception to that, but we'll get to him in a second. He also came from like tight end U. So not quite the profile there, but the school that he came from led him to be that good. If you look at Ben Johnson, he's been a tight end coach since college, so he loves the position. I looked it up this morning. That's since 2011, except for when he was, he started as a tight end coach in Denver, or actually Miami, then Detroit, then worked his way up to offensive coordinator. And once he was in charge of getting people the ball and drawing up plays, his tight ends became indeed tight end 1s, to include Laporta, who we also know without the rookie profile, this might help London a little bit, had the best rookie season ever, or one of, until Bowers came along. So knowing that Ben Johnson loves tight ends, and then also that statistically rookie tight ends don't do very well, except for those 3 that I just mentioned, I think the path is there for Kmet, to who led, hang on, I wrote this down today, who was the most accurate pass catcher on the team, and followed by the running backs, by the way, not wide receivers, in 2024, who had 474 yards, 47 catches, and 4 touchdowns last year, his worst year with the rookie quarterback. I think that everything's kind of set up for him to still, like, to be a target for Williams, to be a favorite player for Ben Johnson, and to be fantasy relevant. And I know that's a lot of stuff to put out there and probably pretty boring, but the point is, even if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter, because if you look at this draft board, I took him with my second to last pick.
Right.
He's going to cost you a pick if I'm wrong. Tucker Kraft's going to cost you Braylon Allen, Matt Stafford, Cole, people with upside.
Right.
Cole Kmet is going to cost you, I don't know, an auto drafted pick at the end for some people. The Pats defense. So I think that I'm right, but even if I'm wrong, it costs you a fingernail. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's where I don't have an issue with it. I'm fully in the camp of, I think it's most of Loveland today, and I think it will be the go-to from there. But if I'm wrong, drafting Colston Loveland, where you could have drafted Tank Bigsby or Braylon Allen or Michael Pittman or Jaden Reed instead, is a lot more costly than where, I took Cole Kmet, but I could have had Mason Taylor or Wandale Robinson or something like that. And the draft that we just did, Cole Kmet literally went undrafted. So that's where I don't have an issue with it. Kyle was trying to help me find where I could find like who was projected to be chopped, who wasn't. I think the pain meds that he's on for his back injury might have kicked in, because he said, go to Liga. And then he said, Ikata all in your Liga.
So, guy's typing with his nose.
Yeah. I think the pain pills are doing the typing for him at this point. But yeah, no, I'm fully in on the Bears tight end, but I just prefer a different tight end. But you have to invest a lot more in the one that I want to draft. So in leagues like that, I don't mind taking shots on Cole Kmet either. But I had to get some analysis from you. I know you said you don't do analysis, but I know that you're a smart guy, and I wanted to hear some of it. So I appreciate that. I don't know. We've done such a good job of being so organized this show and having everything so well put together that I don't know if we did any ad reads earlier. And so I'm just going to run them both real quick.
Trophy Smack.
We did do one. We did the Trophy Smack one.
Did the Trophy Smack.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that means we only have one other one to go. So real quick, before we get out of here, make sure you download and subscribe to the Fast Draft app today using promo code FRAMES, which will earn you a first-time deposit match of up to $50 in credits from their Origins game, where you draft only rookies. You can, grab some Colston Loveland there. The Flex 4 game, where you pick up your favorite players for the upcoming season. might not want to take Cole Kmet in that one because these drafts aren't that deep, but you could if you wanted to. And their D-Up game, which is just like the Flex 4, but with an IDP fantasy football players only. Make sure you draft Jared Verse. 20-second timer, PPR formatted, 6-round best ball draft game. Perfect for those that are on the go but itching to get their fantasy football draft fix satisfied. Again, promo code FRAMES, which will earn you a first-time deposit match of up to $50 in credits. The Fast Draft app. Start drafting faster. And that does it for us tonight. This was a whopper. We almost 2 hours deep now at this point.
The Big Mac.
Yeah, Big Mac meal for sure. We're back next week. It's our last show before the season kicks off, where we go live next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then less than 24 hours after that, the NFL season will kick off. But we'll be back next week to talk my guys, because what is a fantasy football redraft show without a My Guys episode? You know, I don't feel like we could even consider ourselves a fantasy football show if we didn't have one of those. So we're getting it in right at the buzzer next week. So appreciate you guys if you could come out and hang out with that. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Before we do get out of here, I mean, you guys are going to see me and Nate all year long, but Chris, let the folks know where they can find. Well, hold up. Hang on. Chris, you're not important anymore. $2 super chat in the chat. Thank you, Hillary. Greatly appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Very kind of you to get into your pockets for us. We appreciate that. So sorry, Chris. I thought you were going to be important.
No apologies needed.
But so back to you.
Yeah. Dropping an article.
Did I say it's not Hillary?
It's Hilaire.
Hilaire, yeah.
Hilaire. Damn.
Calling him Hillary?
It doesn't matter, because now that you pointed it out, you've satisfied the requirement for somebody who's a super user, and we can move on.
Yeah,
exactly.
Good night, Hilaire.
For only $2, you too can get your name butchered by Drew online.
Yeah.
For $5, he'll call you the wrong.
I'll typically do it for free, but
exactly.
that is what she said for sure. Hilaire, greatly appreciate the $2. I apologize for butchering your name, but that is what I do best. So if you have a name that is anything other than just like Adam, Steve, John, Bob, you know, if you're not in that realm of just normal white guy names, I'm probably going to fuck it up. So just don't drop it in there. Now that we got that out of the way, Chris, let the folks know what they can find you, what you got going on this upcoming season.
Yeah, well, college season starts tomorrow. We got some bangers out the gate. Boise State at USF, Boise State post Ashton Jeanty. We're going to see what they're going to be able to do without the stud running back. And then my game of the night tomorrow in Kansas City at Arrowhead, Nebraska, and the Cincinnati Bearcats. I'm excited for that one. Mr. Swift is supposed to be in attendance, so I think that there's going to be a lot of fanfare around that big game. But every week at fantasyandframes.com, you'll find my plays and fades for the college fantasy football season. I got one dropping tomorrow. I'm just crossing my I's and dotting my T's, man.
Love it. And then I don't know what's happening here. I guess it's a good thing we ran late, because now Gerard has given us a
very well done. That is excellent. I was going to do the same. I'm proud of you.
Jared drops us a $5 super chat. Jared, appreciate it, man. And then Hilarity gives us another $2. We got a showdown now. We got a fight, and we're battling with the donations. I don't know what's happening here, but guys, we appreciate the love. We appreciate the support.
Yes.
Thank y'all very much. We greatly appreciate it. I did not expect this kind of interaction this deep into the show. I got to be honest. I figured once we finish up the draft that shit would just kind of tail off and people would leave us. So, yeah, and Jared, congratulations on the baby, man.
Yeah.
That you know what? A Don.
He didn't pay. You got to get his name right.
Exactly. Aiden.
and we got some battles. But yeah, Jared's a good friend of mine. We actually do another podcast. Well, we used to do another podcast together. We haven't done it in a long time, but they just had a baby that's like literally not even a week old. So congrats to you guys, man. I probably should have saved that $5 for, to go towards some diapers or something, but nonetheless, we greatly appreciate the love. And then before we get out of here, $5 might buy you like a diaper at this point. I don't really know what else it can get for you. But Jim, it's your turn, man. Got to let the people know what you got going on, where they can find you on the socials, all that good stuff.
I think the socials are right there as Sir for Bednar. And most of the time you can find out what I'm doing on the Fantasy and Frames channel just by looking at shows. And clicking like buttons and subscribing, you can find me there too.
Yep, bingo. Yeah, Scamper's just like, it's less than a year, so I guess that's kind of close to be.
No, it's next weekend. We'll see you there, Scampers. Give us a spot at the bar.
We'll meet you at the 9th green at 9. All right, don't be late. All right, fellas. The draft was a blast. Getting to recap everything was a blast. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back next Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, to do the My Guys show. And then less than 24 hours after that, we'll have we'll have real regular season NFL football. Fantasy points will be hitting your draft app. Kyle and his painkillers are still active in the chat. And so tonight was a blast. Draft season came and went so fast. All of my drafts were literally within like a week's time. I waited the entire offseason for 1 week for all of my drafts to happen. 2 of them happened within 30 minutes of each other. So it's sad how quick it comes and goes, but it's always a blast. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. Chris, since you're here, man, I'm going to need you to hit our final line. What do we say whenever we get out of here?
Toodles.